to Versus, the very popular RXMuscle original program that pits bodybuilder versus bodybuilder, virtually that is. And today's competition, I guess you could say, or virtual competition that is Chris Bumstead versus Regan Grimes. Regan had just announced recently that he'd be switching to the Classic Physique division. And obviously Chris Bumstead, a true star in that division already, placed second at the Olympia. A lot of people felt maybe he should have won that show. So he's certainly one of the top stars in Classic Physique. Regan Grimes placing second at a pro show in the open division last year in his rookie debut season. And now making that announcement that he'll be going down to the Classic division. So it'll be interesting to see. Everyone's saying, how do these guys stack up against each other? Bumstead is 6'3". Grimes is 6'1". They height-wise are pretty comparable. They got a very classic physique, both of them, the small waist, great lines. And they're both from Canada, so what better rivalry do you get than that? So let's cut through. We're going to go right to the pose, and what we're going to do is we're going to compare the mandatory poses. I'm going to give you my analysis, and at the end, I'm going to give you who I think won the virtual pose down. All right, let's look at the front double bicep, which is, in the classic division, this would have to be the pose that everyone says is the defining pose of the division. At least I think it is. And, it shows off small waist. Obviously, you can see Grimes on the right has just a small waist as Bumstead on the left there. Chris with the slightly longer torso. Both of them with the great vacuum rib cage. I think Regan may even have a bigger rib cage than Bumstead does. The good front quads with the good separation on both competitors. The biceps, not the best in the division. Young guys, once again, seems like biceps tend to take a little longer to mature. To me, on this pose, I think Regan's got the bigger, rib cage. I think Bumstead's, has a little bit of better conditioning when he competes than than Grimes. I personally like Bumstead on this front double bicep. Some people would say, well, his torso's a little long and it might hurt him, but I don't think so. I think in the classic division, I think this is a tremendous advantage. And I like the dryness of Bumstead's legs too. I think his legs just get really crisp and show a lot more detail than Grimes. So for me, I give the front double bicep to Chris Bumstead. Let's go to the next pose now that we have in the lineup here. And let's critique what the next mandatory will be. Now, it's interesting, when you look at these guys, we took them a little out of order, but once again, another classic pose for this division, the lat spread. Now, you're seeing two different versions of it being hit here. If you look at Chris Bumstead on the left, he's got that vacuum pose, and I know he'll go into, if we just notch down one picture on Bumstead, you can actually see then he'll blow down on his abs, which is the pose that Regan is hitting right now. Now, I don't like the way that Regan holds his hands. That can be corrected. He kind of has his arms flared out to the side. I kind of like the way Bumstead has the elbows tucked in. Just, to me, that's just a better version of the pose. I think Regan actually on this pose, shows a better taper than Bumstead. Once again, I like Bumstead's quads better. I think they're drier and harder. And I think that, the long torso or the longer torso of Bumstead is an advantage on the ab thigh pose for some reason. I just think it is. Guys with shorter torsos just never really look as good on the ab thigh. But Regan's got such a tiny little waist and he's got such great definition in that midsection area that it's really close. I mean, you could almost call this a tie, but I like Bumstead in this pose. I give this one to Bumstead just because of the sheer size of his body and that overall impressiveness of those front quads. Going to the next pose, we have to realize the front poses for the classic division seem to be more, I guess you could say, in your face, and that's really the way people judge these shows. But we all know that shows are won and lost from the back. So you can't discount, oh, this guy wins just because he looks better from the front. I mean, Phil Heath's best poses are really not his front poses. They're probably the side and back poses, and that's how he always wins the Olympia. So you got to remember that it's not always the front. So let's look at the back pose. Now, this is not Regan Grimes' best conditioning he ever achieved. So we have to judge what we have picture-wise of him. But on the right, you could see he's got a really good back, very good taper from behind. Once again, great hamstrings. The glutes could be a little tighter in this picture, but assuming he gets himself 100% in shape, especially having to make a weight class in the classic division, is going to ensure that he's in the best shape of his life. on this back double, he's very impressive. You know, this is a weird angle on the Bumstead back double over on the left there. But Bumstead, you know, he's got very good hamstrings. He doesn't seem to have as much separation as Grimes does, but I like the fact that everything is dry and you don't see anything move. You know, the conditioning is impeccable. I like the way Bumstead poses his back, and when he moves around on stage and he moves, he just won't hit the post. He'll transition a couple times, and you can see a lot more detail. You know, from these poses, I kind of give, assuming Grimes hits his peak conditioning, I think Grimes can take Bumstead on the back double bicep. I think that is a weakness for Bumstead still. I think he's working still to bring that pose up. Now, once again, we're just, you know, critiquing this virtually. When you see these guys in person, they're both way more impressive, you know, moving, okay, than they are statically. And that's the case with a lot of bodybuilders. For me, I think the reigning Mr. Olympia in the classic division, Breon Ansley, is just as good in pictures as he is moving, which is amazing because not many guys are like that. You look at pictures of Breon and you're like, holy mackerel, he looks really good. And he looks that good in person as well. Guys like Bumstead and Grimes, their physiques don't translate to pictures as well as they do in person. That's why it's very hard to judge, you know, shows from the pictures you're seeing. Even from the video you're watching, sometimes you can't really tell. All right, let's move to the next pose now. And once again, side chest pose, great pose for Regan Grimes. He's got those thick, you know, strided pecs. He's got the good side leg, a lot of detail. Obviously, now you got to remember, Grimes is wearing posing trunks here. Bumstead is in the Classic Physique shorts, so you're not seeing his glutes and hamstrings, which I know are tremendously, you know, ridiculously strided. So you're getting a little bit of an advantage the way Grimes is posing here. But you got that nice side delt. He's just got very fresh looking round muscle, Grimes. But that's not to say I love the Bumstead side chest because he's got that, once again, that long torso. So he's got the big rib box. He's got the super wide shoulders. This is a tough pose. I almost want to call this pose a tie. I think in person, Bumstead may look a little better on this pose because of his height being a little bit more than Grimes, but both of these guys are really tall. It's hard for me to pick a winner. If I had to go with anyone here, I'd probably say, I'd probably go Bumstead, only like I said, because of the height factor. I think that on stage, he would probably squeeze out that, but I really think it can go either way. You can flip a coin on the side chest pose. Let's move over to the next. I think we have the the side tricep pose. And what I want to say about that pose is, once again, these guys that are taller, that's the side chest again. These guys that are taller tend to look better on that side. Oh, I think we go to the lat spread next. That's what's next, yeah. Sorry, lat spread. I think we missed a pose, but it's all right. Let's go to that lat spread, Tyler. And as you can see, this is one of Bumstead's best poses on the left. He is got those lats that flare forever. Now, if you look at just look at the lat flare on Bumstead on the left and Grimes on the right, there's no way anyone beats Bumstead on this pose. He looks like, he actually looks, even facially in this pose, like Dorian Yates. I mean, that's a wide back. For the classic physique division, he looks like he's an open bodybuilder on this pose. He's like a combination between Dorian Yates and Barry DeMay, and no one touches him on this this front lat spread pose. I think Grimes is good, but he's not great on this pose, and I think that this is a Bumstead pose. I think if we move up 3 notches there, Tyler, you'll see the side tricep pose. I see it on the left side. Yeah, no, that's side chest. Right there. That's the best we got. Put that one up here. And then we have the side tri at the top over there, right there. Okay. That's side tricep. We don't have one of Bumstead standing from the side here, so we have to take this. Bumstead has great triceps. If you look at the Regan Grimes side tricep, even though this is also really kind of facing forward, he's got a tremendous amount of detail, Regan, in that front quad when he kind of cocks his leg to the side there and he leans on his obliques a little bit. It's a very impressive pose. Now, this is not a classic physique pose per se. It's a kind of an optional pose. So we don't really have to evaluate this. But if you look at these guys as a whole, and you take what we're looking at here, the classic physique poses being the front double, the lat spread, excuse me, the front double bicep, the ab thigh, and the back double. Those to me are the most important, and the front double bicep. Those are the most important classic poses, and I think that's really where these shows are won. I have Bumstead winning the majority of those poses over Grimes. I think that Grimes is going to be a good classic physique guy because he's going to be a lot leaner because he has to come down to that weight. And I think he was worried when he was an open guy that he wasn't big enough, so he's coming in a little, heavier than he should have. But I think Bumstead has just got maybe a year or two advantage on Grimes in terms of physique development, muscle maturity, the way he executes his poses, his stage confidence. He looks like the winner up there when you look at him up there. I truly believed that he was going to win the Olympia, and I thought it was very, very close between him and Breon Ansley. And I think it will be very close again this year because these guys are like this and this. They're right next to each other. Will Grimes be a factor in the Olympia this year? Will he win a pro show in Classic? I don't know. I don't know what he's going to look like when he gets down to that weight class. But I think right now, on paper, and on paper, believe me, means nothing at the end of the day, but on paper, in my mind, Bumstead is still a better classic physique bodybuilder. I still would have liked to see Regan stay in the open division, but I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be good, but I don't know if he's going to be good enough because the problem is that he can't gain any more weight to try to make up for whatever deficits he's got in his physique. The question is when he gets crazy shredded, maybe it'll be enough. Maybe that's going to be the factor that he's been missing in the open is the conditioning level. But we won't know, obviously, until we see these guys up on stage together. For now, I'm going with the winner of the versus pose down between Chris Bumstead and Regan Grimes. I give it to Chris Bumstead. I'm Dave Palumbo. We'll see you next time.